In 1820, a continent the size of the United States and Mexico combined was discovered, and nobody, not one sailor, not one explorer, not one lost ship, had ever seen it before. After thousands of years of human civilization sailing every ocean on this planet, nobody. And then in a single year, 3 separate world powers all showed up at the exact same time. Same continent, same region, same year. That is not exploration. That is not coincidence. That is coordination. And the moment you understand what was happening 4 years before 1820, the moment you see what was on maps made 500 years before 1820, and the moment you find out what the United States military did immediately after 1820 was officially written into the history books, you will never trust the official timeline of human civilization again. Stay with me. Because this goes deeper than Antarctica. This goes all the way to the bottom of everything you were taught in school. I have been sitting with this question for months. And the answer I found is not the one I expected. Because this is not just a story about a continent. This is a story about what was erased before 1820. This is a story about a civilization that was here before us, advanced, global, and powerful, that was wiped from the record so completely that most people have never even heard a whisper of it. And the evidence for that erasure is hiding in plain sight, in old maps that should not exist, in buildings that should not have been built, in a single catastrophic event that history barely teaches and almost nobody questions, and in a continent that was locked away from the rest of humanity by an international treaty that every major world power signed without hesitation and honored without exception for over 60 years. Let me ask you something. When was the last time Russia and the United States agreed on anything for 60 years straight? When was the last time Cold War enemies, nations that pointed nuclear weapons at each other for decades, maintained a perfect unbroken agreement about anything? It has never happened, except once, Antarctica, and nobody talks about it. I am going to walk you through the full timeline tonight, every piece of it, because once you see how these dates connect, once you see what happened in 1816, what showed up on maps in 1513, what the Nazis were doing in 1938, and what the U.S. military launched in 1946, the story of Antarctica stops being a geography lesson and starts looking like the most successful cover-up in human history. Let us start with 1816, because before we can talk about what was discovered, in 1820 we need to talk about what was destroyed 4 years earlier. History calls it the year without a summer. The official explanation is a volcano. Mount Tambora, Indonesia, 1815, massive eruption, ash in the atmosphere, sunlight blocked, temperatures dropped, crops failed, famine spread, case closed. That is the story. That is what they put in the textbooks. But here is what the textbooks leave out. The effects were not regional, not limited to one hemisphere. They were global, simultaneous, everywhere at once. Snow in New England in June. Harvest collapses across all of Europe. Famine spreading across multiple continents at the same time. Strange orange and purple skies reported from locations thousands of miles apart. And it was not just environmental. The years after 1816 show something in the historical record that researchers who dig into the primary sources describe as deeply unsettling. Communities losing continuity with their own past. Cultural traditions that vanish and reappear, changed. Entire generations with no memory of what existed just before them. One researcher called it civilizational amnesia. That phrase has stayed with me because it does not sound like a volcano. It sounds like a reset. It sounds like what modern scientists would call a nuclear winter. A sudden catastrophic global blackout caused not by a single volcano but by a civilization-scale catastrophe. A war so total it erased not just the people who fought it but the memory it ever happened. And here is where it gets real. There is a growing body of researchers pointing at the pre-1800s record and asking questions mainstream history refuses to answer. Questions about buildings that appear in the record fully constructed with no documented build period. Questions about city infrastructure of extraordinary complexity, appearing in territories that supposedly had no advanced civilization. Questions about architectural fingerprints, Same proportions, same structural logic, same craftsmanship, showing up simultaneously on multiple continents with no documented connection. These researchers call this lost civilization Tartaria, and I know what that word does. I know the reflex it triggers. It has been pushed into the conspiracy theory category, mocked, dismissed without examination. But here is what I have learned. The intensity of the ridicule is often proportional to the threat the idea poses to the official story, because the official story needs those buildings to have been built by frontier settlers. It needs the timeline to hold, because if it does, not if those buildings were already standing, then the timeline is wrong. And if the timeline is wrong, then 1820 is wrong. And if 1820 is wrong, then the question of who was already in Antarctica becomes very dangerous. Now the maps. This is the part that stopped me cold. According to the official record, Antarctica was unknown before 1820. Unknown, undiscovered, unseen. But there are surviving maps created centuries before 1820 that appear to show Antarctica in detail. The Piri Reis Map from 1513. 500 years before satellites, 500 years before sonar, and yet its southern coastline aligns, according to researchers, with the subglacial terrain of Antarctica. Not the ice surface. The actual land beneath 2 miles of frozen water. Piri Reis wrote that he compiled his map from older source maps. Maps now lost. Maps whose origin even he did not fully know. Then the Oronteus Phineas map from 1531. Antarctica without ice. With rivers, with mountain ranges, with interior detail that humans did not confirm until the 20th century. So ask the question the official record refuses to ask. How does a map from 1513 contain information modern science only confirmed in the 1950s? Where did that knowledge come from? And why does the 1820 discovery story proceed as though those maps do not exist? Fast forward to 1938. Nazi Germany sends an expedition to Antarctica. They flew aircraft over massive territory, dropped thousands of markers claiming the land for the Third Reich. Mapped nearly 600,000 square kilometers of interior terrain. German submarines operated in Antarctic waters as late as 1945. The Nazi scientific establishment was obsessively interested in ancient maps and lost civilizations. What were they looking for? What did they find? What did they know? Those records are incomplete. Some say destroyed. 8 years later, the United States showed up with 13 ships, 33 aircraft, and nearly 5,000 military personnel. Operation Highjump, led by Rear Admiral Richard Byrd, officially described as science. But you do not send 5,000 soldiers on a science trip. You send them when you are securing something. When you are making sure whatever is down there stays controlled. Then in 1959, every major world power signed the Antarctic Treaty, banned military activity, banned resource extraction, banned independent exploration, and it has held for over 60 years between nations that agreed on almost nothing else. Cold War enemies, nuclear rivals, nations that nearly destroyed the world over Cuba and Korea and Vietnam. They could not agree on anything except Antarctica. That kind of agreement does not happen by accident. It happens when every government that sent ships down there came back with the same information and made the same decision. Lock it down. Keep people out. Never say what is under the ice. If there was an advanced civilization before the 19th century, the architectural record suggests there was. If it collapsed around 1816, the historical record suggests something catastrophic happened. If Antarctica was once habitable and known to ancient mapmakers, the surviving maps say it was, then whatever is left of that world is sitting under 2 miles of ice right now, and every major government has known for 80 years, and they all agreed, quietly, completely, permanently, that the rest of us are never going to see it. I am not telling you what to believe. I am telling you to look at the dates, look at the maps. Ask the question nobody in an official position will answer. Because 1820 is not just a date, it is a door, and that door has been locked. And the people who locked it are never going to tell you what is on the other side.